And then about 2 years later, I met Robin McKenzie, and he was most people don't realize that Robin McKenzie and Brian Mulligan both were two of the key starters of manipulative therapy in New Zealand. And they did that about the time I qualified, about 1971 or 69 or 70 or something like that. And they formed the New Zealand Manipulative Therapist Association in order to teach physiotherapists how to mobilize and manipulate and do diagnostics. And my first teacher, so I started that diploma course in 1974, and Brian Mulligan taught the extremity section of the course, and they were teaching not their own material, they were teaching the material by Freddy Kaltenborn and Olaf Evjen from Norway, and they were teaching that Nordic system. So they taught, Brian Mulligan taught the Nordic system for the extremities, and McKenzie taught the Nordic system for the neck, for the spine. And this is before McKenzie ever wrote anything down, really, of his own material. And so in 1976, I got my diploma in manipulative therapy. I think I'm number 21 on the register. So the first 10, McKenzie's 1, Brian Mulligan's 2, and then there's another 8. Another 8 got there. They basically examined each other and gave themselves a diploma. I mean, it's and then the next 11. I'm the 11th after that. So I mean, it's just bizarre, but it's just the way.
That's crazy.
Well, what Mulligan and McKenzie and about 10 other people did was that they went to the physiotherapy school at the time and said, we need to start teaching physiotherapists how to do these things. And they said no. So they said, oh, we'll do it ourselves. That's what New Zealanders do. If you can't get the people who are supposed to do it, you just do it yourself. And so that's what they did. And when I was during that time, during the mid-70s, when I was actually still a student, we had a group of people up at Auckland who were going through the course at the same time, and we used to get together, and I found myself more often than not being the teacher. And so once I qualified and had my diploma, I started assisting McKenzie and Brian Mulligan on the courses. And then very quickly, McKenzie stopped teaching that, started teaching his own material. So I became a teacher on the NZMPA courses. And then I started teaching for McKenzie, and I did that for 15 years. And that was only the spinal stuff. I never did any of McKenzie's extremity stuff because I have a different opinion about the extremities. So in fact, I was already teaching the extremity joints diagnosis and treatment through the 1980s and 90s. And it was me who tried to get the McKenzie Institute to start an extremity joint program, and I offered them my material, and they didn't want it. So I went off, I continued to do my own stuff. And I published a book in 1996 on the Mechanical Diagnosis and Therapy for the Upper Limb, which is now sold out, and I'm not going to do a second edition. And then I did a PhD. I sold my house. I sold my practices, and moved into an apartment that my wife and I owned. This was in 2001. And then I did a PhD out of Sweden on diagnostics, and working with Dr. April in New Orleans, who's now retired. And that's when I started publishing in the 80s, but really the serious stuff didn't start until I really did my PhD.